After months of traveling to some of the greatest road courses in the United States, the Porsche Owners Club goes global tonight. That's right, the California-based club packs their virtual bags and heads north of the border to visit Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. That counts as global. We all know that, right? Yeah, we all know that. We are glad to have you here along for the ride tonight live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm Devin Henry. Alongside me in the booth tonight is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director Joe Peak, using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, things are a little bit different up here in Canada, so let's take a closer look at Mosport with our GSRC lap guide.
Welcome to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, or as most fans know it, Mosport. This circuit to the northeast of Toronto is a rarity in the world of racing today. Safety standards and the desire for more overtaking opportunities has caused most tracks to alter their layouts over the years. But Mosport is still exactly the same footprint as it was when it was built in 1961. A mere 11 turns, most of which are high-speed sweepers, are dispersed among 2.5 miles or just shy of 4 kilometers. The only alterations to the turns have been to the runoff areas, but otherwise the radii, camber, and elevation changes are all untouched. Because cars have continued to get faster through the passage of time, it's made this place a fearsome beast to tackle. Clayton Corner is particularly notorious. The blind crest and steep plunge combined with incredibly high speeds to create a punishing combination. Without many heavy braking zones, passing is often difficult. And other than using the slipstream up the Mario Andretti Straight, the only other option is usually Moss Corner. This double apex hairpin is named after Sir Sterling Moss for his suggestion to redesign it after he saw its initial layout. While the plateau-like middle portion and critical exit onto the backstretch certainly give it plenty of character, the heavy compression at the bottom of the hill that causes a frighteningly short braking zone makes this one not for the faint of heart. Formula One, USAC, and IMSA have all taken their turns here, but recently NASCAR has joined the fray by holding a round for the Truck Series. Old school fans can rejoice for the enduring popularity of this bastion of untouched tarmac, but any motorsports enthusiast can't help but smile at the thrill Mosport continues to provide.
Out here in Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada, it's a little colder here in the physical world than it is the virtual world. But we are happy to be here up in Canada. DJ Clark, man, this is a very fun track. Only 10 turns. I say only as if that's, nothing miraculous. But this track, it's still a handful when you get on here.
Oh, it is no question, Devin, and it is the very definition of an old school track. With the modern technology on these Porsches, you are really going to have to be riding the trail brake through these corners. It's light braking, lifting off the throttle. You're not having a lot of heavy braking zones. That is, unless you take into consideration turn 5, the Moss hairpin, one of the trickiest corners in the world, and most certainly the hardest here at Mosport. The uphand right-hander double apex. It is so difficult to get right, but it's really the only heavy braking zone and only kind of good overtaking opportunity. So I think for these guys, the biggest thing today is going to be track position, as that lack of heavy braking really going to make for a hard way to make a pass around here.
A 30-minute race compared to last week, which was a full hour race. Back to normal here this week for the Porsche Owners Club. And as we prepare for the race, we have to give a thank you to the sponsors who allowed this series to keep on running this full, long season schedule here in season number 2, and that includes Sunset Mortgage. Don't put your money in the bank, be the bank. Check them out today at sunsetcash.net. And Octavio Tequila. Celebrate now. For great tasting tequila, go to octaviotequila.com and purchase today. And Century Financial Consultants, making the rest of your life the best of your life. You can check out their website at centuryretired.com. And if you might be interested in advertising with GSRC, I think it's a good idea, but I'm biased. So I'll just let you know that our channel's 1 million monthly global impressions. They're probably a pretty good way to get your branding seen by a diverse audience here in the sim racing world. Follow the link in the description below on YouTube or visit globalsimracingchannel.com/advertising to learn more. Well, we are now a handful of races into the change from the GT3s to the RSRs. But one thing has stayed the same for the most part. Teddy Framheim has been dominant. Connor Bloom still looks pretty good. Gregory LeFou comes out, he races strong. But 2 weeks ago, Michael Johnson took the win here in this series, DJ Clark.
He did, and as we move down to that GT4 championship, Jacob Abrams still holding the lead over Paul Newton and BJ Fulton. Behind him, Alan Stead and Doug Boiccioni. Our last race winner, of course, was Eric Oviatt, who is currently sitting at the top of the GT4 standings in qualifying right now.
Yeah, Oviatt ran the GT3s towards the start of the year, as we have chaos and calamity going on here in the open qualifying session. And Oviatt, since then, moving over to the RSRs, he moved down to the GT4 Club Sport cars instead. He has won the last 3 races in a row. Well, as these drivers continue to roll on up here in open qualifying, you can keep up with all of your favorite drivers, whether it be qualifying or the race, with live timing and scoring. That is at GSRC.tv. GSRC.tv. Keep up with live timing and scoring just like we do up here in the booth. And DJ, for those of you guys new to this series, including you, DJ, good to have you up here in the booth. Let's tell everyone a little bit more about what this series is all about here in the Porsche Owners Club.
Thanks, Devin. This is going to be round 13 of 16 in this Porsche Owners Club series. As we mentioned before, we're going to be racing the Porsche 718 GT4s and the 991s, or the 911s RSRs. Excuse me, there, I stumbled over my own words. We are currently watching the 30-minute qualifying that takes place around here, followed by the 30-minute sprint race, and this is the big one. It is open setups, so these guys can choose whatever suits their fancy to get them around Motorsport the fastest.
And that could cause a big difference in that heavy braking zone that you're talking about in the hairpin into turn number 5, DJ, because when you have an open setup, it's not just about the braking bias, but it's how the car reacts in minute 29 when you're going into that corner after all those laps on the tires, right?
Oh, it certainly is. You're going to be seeing a lot of guys before this playing with those rear roll bars, trying to figure out what the right give and take of the car is going to be. One of the tenets of Motorsport, obviously, is the large elevation changes across the entire track. The roll bar going to be really important with that. Also, your dampers across the board. So really trying to fine-tune everything. And we could very well see somebody early in this race get off to a big lead, but start to lose it as their tires go away and the fuel wanes off and their car stops being as strong.
Taking a look at what's previously looking at our series organizer, Matt Halder, now looking at Michael Robon, currently 7th right now in GT4, and you see the GT4 standings here on the left side of your screen. And someone who's missing from that top 3 right now, Jacob Abrams, 7 wins on the season. I thought most all those coming in the first half of the season. Raced extremely well, got a boatload of wins, was playing on clinics. He's had a little bit of bad luck on one hand. He's had a little bit of misfortune on the other hand. It seems like in the second half of the season, Jacob Abrams can't cut a break, but nonetheless, with a large lead here in the points, you might want to start conserving here. I mean, race 13 of 16 with such a heavy points lead. You know, when do you say, okay, let's just go on cruise control here, move on up, and win us a championship?
Well, I think telling any driver to go into conservation mode is always a catch-22, as no driver wants to say, you know what, I don't want to win this race. But for Abrams, that is really what he's got to be focusing on. He has to know it, fight against those instincts, back out of the risky passes that he may be trying to take no matter what. So we're going to have to see what he does. I think at a track like this, qualifying 4th, he can probably hold that position best he can as we watch Doug Boiccioni here working his way around that very tricky last corner and onto the main straight.
Boiccioni, one of the race winners here in the GT4 category. When Abrams has won half the races, Oviatt has won 3. It's almost an exclusive club at this point to be in, being a GT4 winner here in Season 2 of the Porsche Owners Club. David Kedor now taking a look at him right now, 14th in GT4. And you look at all of the different club sport cars, these GT4s, there are 17 of them who have taken time so far, and then 6 RSRs. And we have seen the past few races just the rate of catching the GT4s, and the speed difference has been astronomical, and it has been concerning to some of these GT4 cars just how fast those RSRs are trying to come around them. And as you can see here on board Jacob Abrams, not the widest track in the world, especially with the racing line.
Oh no, it's very narrow, and because of the camber of some of these corners going over the hills, if you get slightly offline, you are going to be in the grass. This first corner being one of them, you've really got to hit that curb just right. We're seeing, as you see the times here on the left-hand side of your screen, these RSR guys are going up to 10 seconds a lap faster than the GT4 guys. So we could see them being caught in maybe only 10 laps time and just getting lapped and lapped again. So it's going to be very, very dangerous driving for drivers in both categories.
Michael Bolton here in the RSR, currently in the 5th position in qualifying. And of course, we take a look here at Connor Bloom. 2 victories on the season here in the Pink Pig. Won the opener at Daytona, what feels like was years ago at this point, but just a few months ago in Season 2, first picked up. But many things have changed in this series since that opening race. For instance, a boatload of races. The season was almost doubled, which include a 60-minute race at Auto Club. That was last week, and now the season finale will be at COTA, Circuit of the Americas. 90-minute race there to end the season. That is just almost here. You take a look at this series, the RSR is kind of a pro amateur group. It's open to all POC members with an I rating above 1500 or pro racing drivers, which we have in this club. And then the GT4 is open to all POC members. The Porsche Owners Club is a real life Porsche club, mostly based out of California. They go across and we've seen a couple different tracks like Auto Club and Laguna Seca, some of those California tracks. These drivers have raced either time trials or wheel-to-wheel at in the Porsche Owners Club, so it's fun to see some of these club mates coming out here now being able to go wheel-to-wheel in the virtual world on iRacing.
It's always fun to do, and it's always fun to be able to say, ooh, as a big kerfuffle there in front of Michael Bolton happens. But it's always good to be able to come out and test it and have a good job. As we watch here as BJ Fulton working his way around these undulating hills of Mosport. But yeah, being able to come out and race like this in a virtual sense, you don't really have to worry about your car getting dinged up as much, so you're more likely to take a few extra challenges into a corner.
So at this track here at Mosport, there's almost a front straightaway. I mean, it technically includes like a corner and a half almost. But when you look at the lane coming up to and also the Mario Andretti straightaway, which I think Americans will look at that, or oval people, and go the front straightaway because that's what pit road has. It's the straightest part of the track, but how much of a draft can you actually get down there? You fly by that straightaway, quote unquote, in just seconds.
You do, and really and truly, just what you're able to do on the straightaway is determined by your exit out of Moss, out of that tricky hairpin that we were talking about. You're able to pick up a little bit of a draft, there's no question of it, but it's not enough to really suck you in and pull you ahead. If you're going to get a pass coming down into the S's, you have to nail the exit of Moss, and that is really the only way you've got even a snowball's chance of being able to get that pass done.
Michael Johnson, the last race winner in that Octavia Tequila machine. Currently 3rd in RSR, or excuse me, Michael Johnson 5th right now in the RSRs. But as these drivers head on up into their final laps of the race, look at Teddy Framheim. He is the qualifying king. Once again, looks like he will be sat on the pole. Connor Bloom about half a second behind him. And then you look at these next 3 drivers, Bolton, Hollander, Johnson, all within just a couple tenths of one another. And when it comes down to a 30-minute sprint race, you know, those tenths in a race, they can make a major difference.
They really can, and it really comes down to where they're gaining and losing those tenths. You know, this is a track where momentum is really key. If you lose it coming around, say, the S's, you're not going to be penalized too much as you've got to lift off again coming into turn 1. But say if you're losing that 10th through Moss, like we talked about coming onto the Andretti straightaway, that's going to cost you everything. So it's really going to be interesting to see which corners these drivers favor, which one they're able to gain some time at, and which one they're weaker on, as it'll set up for an interesting race across the board.
All the drivers now making their final laps around this track here. Right now, the RSR is running about a minute 12, a minute 13 in time. Then you look at some of the fastest GT4s running about a minute 23, a minute 24 per lap. And as you mentioned, DJ, about a 10-second per lap gap and that's just the top cars in both classes. You can see a ginormous difference when it comes to speed once these drivers get rolling here in the race. Alan Stad right now in 12th, rolling behind Oviatt, trying to get his final lap set in here. But what do you think the key will be tonight to head into victory lane at Mosport, DJ?
It's going to be consistency, consistency, consistency. Not letting a simple mistake throw you off your game, getting right back into the rhythm, and just trying to run the best race that you can. This is not a track where you can win looking in your mirrors. You have to run your race. And so the person that is able to really focus in and do what the best that they can do, that's going to be what gets them ahead.
Looks like Freckleton will be the last driver to complete his lap here in this race. And with that checkered flag, let's take a look at tonight's starting lineup here at Mosport. In RSR, we got 6 of them, and I guess it's no surprise. Teddy Framheim at the top of the board in RSR. Connor Bloom will start in second. Michael Bolton will line up in the third position. Matt Hollander in fourth. Michael Johnson rounds out your top 5. Jim Slavic rounds out your RSRs. Eric Oviatt starts on pole for GT4. Doug Boccignone starts off 8th overall, second in GT4. Jacob Abrams will start 9th, and Paul Newton rounds out your top 10 overall.
Bringing the car home to start off in 11th is going to be Michael Ost, followed by BJ Fulton in 12th, Cordy Latvala in 13th, Michael Roban in 14th, Jerry Freckleton is going to be 15th, and outside of him will be Jad Duncan. In row 9 will be Mark Rondeau, followed by Alan Stead, Ron Palmer, and John Momeyer in 20th place.
And rounding out your field, a few more drivers. That includes David Creator, Jim Walsh, Jeffrey Shulam, and then Adam Fulton not able to make a lap, so we will see if he makes the grid. But right there, your 24-car field here tonight at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Heading north of the border, the first race outside the United States of America, virtually, for the Porsche Owners Club here. And as these drivers finish up, stacking up on the grid, race number 13, the championship looming just ahead. They race every other Monday, so it almost feels like the championship is so far away. But something very fun about these drivers is that in real life they actually do a little bit of a driving school, and they bring everyone out and they do test sessions together on the track. Well, they do the same here in iRacing, and so throughout the past 2 weeks they get ready for Mosport by coming in and doing some wheel-to-wheel racing together. And so a lot of these drivers, they have the iRacing experience here at Mosport now after racing and going through some driving classes together. But now it's time to prove that you actually learned something. Try to go out there and get yourself a win. And of course, in GT4, you have to beat Jacob Abrams and Eric Oviatt to grab that checkered flag.
And they're going to be 2 very tricky ones to do, as they're going to be starting on the inside line there. That's going to be the preferred line into that turn 1, that tricky sort of off-speed, light lift off of the throttle, little bit of brake on it. Don't be surprised if we maybe see a little bit of bumping and rubbing through there, as it's going to be everybody trying to get onto the power to get down into Clayton.
So you roll through the tunnel, you're up in here through the hills, the twisty turns, but how much tire wear does this track really give off? I mean, it feels like it's almost equal on both the right sides and the left sides with just how large these corners are and how many there are of them.
Yeah, tire wear is going to be a big key, because you're basically putting so much lateral load through the sidewall of the tire. So it's really going to be putting maximum amounts of pressure on it. So you've got to be careful. Look to maybe see some of these guys lifting off a little bit more than you would think, coming through these first couple of laps, trying to save as much tire life as possible. And, you know, we talked about how setups can change going through the race. Don't be surprised if somebody's a little overeager and then end result really gets their tires to wear off in the last 10 minutes.
And one thing that we have seen maybe a little bit too much is a little bit of an extra anticipation. At the green flag, these drivers get a little bit anxious once that green flag flies, but I guess when you own your own personal Porsche, when you're able to race one without having to pay the bill, you like to have a little bit of fun, right?
Oh, most certainly, and especially in a virtual sense. Like I said earlier, it's not your car, it's not actually going to cost you anything to hurt it, so might as well have a little bit of fun.
So the Porsches led by the Pace Porsche making the final corners here on this full entire warm-up lap of about 2.5 miles long. They'll do that for a good 30 minutes here in round number 13 of the season number 2. Off the final corner, Framheim and Bloom lead the way. We are green at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
And it looks like all the RSRs are going to make it through that first corner nice and clean. The front runners, oh, I lied a little bit too quick there. That looks like, I think that was Bloom going wide.
Connor Bloom a little bit too feisty going through that first corner. Then another issue, that's Michael Johnson, last week's winner, hard into the tire barrier, unable to keep that machine in hand as the GT4s roll by, led by Eric Oviatt and Doug Boccignone.
Well, they were just there to catch my words out, Devin, as it looks like the RSRs were the ones to really have problem, but everybody else now starting to line up as we're going to dive down the hill here and into that tricky Moss corner. Watch, nobody tries to outbrake themselves. Hopefully nobody runs into the back of anybody.
It looks like Bloom may have already had an issue there at the hairpin. You see him now just in front of these GT4s. Now everyone coming back through after the hairpin. Yeah, you're about halfway there for a lap. Just about another, I don't know, 25 minutes of this.
Yeah, exactly. You can start to breathe easy at this point and let it go. No, but this is where you really start to have to worry a little bit as you get into these S's. You think it should be nice and easy, but it's not. It's really easy to get wrong here. Take it a little bit wide through that turn 8, get it all the way through, back into 9, and through whites on 10. You got to avoid that high curb on the inside. Everybody, one of these leaders looking like they're doing just that.
Eric Oviatt leading the way here in GT4, 3-time and defending winner right now. Issues here with Mr. Kermit the Frog, Jad Duncan, further back in GT4. But Oviatt, he's been a POC member since 2002, ran his first POC event the week of his 16th birthday, in fact. The former POC director of motorsports and now a private driving coach for hire, leading the way, looking for 4 wins in a row. And I guess you can say on a part-time basis here in GT4. Won't be able to contend for the championship, but has already fought his way into the top 5 in points with his impressive outing. The bout for second, though, is between Doug Boccignone and Paul Newton. And watch out for that white and red club sport machine, Jacob Abrams, lingering just behind them. Whoa, your leader, Eric Oviatt, is around.
And there's that tricky whites corner catching him out like we've talked about. If you don't get the brakes exactly right, that's exactly what can happen to you, Devin.
Your leader, Eric Oviatt, now has to watch every single GT4 roll on by from first to worst. Here's a replay here on the GSRC replay machine.
He's going to come in, clip a little bit of that inside corner that's going to mess up his braking. He's got his right side tires onto that dirt right there, and that's just going to send him spinning around. That corner is completely blind when you're coming up to it, so it's so easy to misjudge. Absolutely horrible mistake there from Oviatt, and now he's got to work his way all the way back up through the field.
Now 24th on track, dead last. I am not going to put it past to say will not win number 4 in a row, but it certainly will be a wild ride in order for him to even have a chance at getting there. Watching on board, it's Michael Ost here, following along with Jacob Abrams. Close quarter racing here around that rear bumper. This is not the NASCAR Truck Series. I don't think that shoving that bumper into these corners will keep the car in front of you straight enough moving forward.
No, you know, normally outside of that, Porsche drivers tend to look a little bit negative on bump drafting, but here this is a great angle. You can see just how easy it is to make that mistake that Oviatt did over that corner. He's going to get right up behind him here, right up behind Abrams, try to get that draft that we were talking about, but it looks like he doesn't have the exact pull coming onto Andretti that he needs. He's going to try to do it, but I don't think he's got enough momentum to get the pass done here on this lap.
Boccignone continues to lead here, just a few positions in front of Ost in GT4. You're not missing much right now in RSR. Teddy Framheim up to a 3-second lead over Matt Hollander. Although a potential story right now is Michael Johnson having to bob and weave through the GT4 field right now. Johnson had that early mistake earlier on, and now picking his way through the slower traffic. And this is where, if you're a GT4, you weren't looking forward to this. You thought that this would be happening a little bit later in the race. You don't like those RSRs breathing down your neck.
No, you do not. And there, right there, you can see him working his way around. I believe that was Mohmeyer. Who is there? Mohmeyer goes around.
Hard impact there into just past the pit wall.
very
Not quite
easy
sure who
to
that
get.
was.
It wasn't
Jerry
Momire. That's my.
Freckleton.
Yeah, it was Freckleton. Thank you. Very easy to do that there as well. That is a little bit of an interesting corner. You can see it here on replay as they go through. It's about a half a curb, and you can see there it looks like he just beaches the middle of that car on that rumble strip, and that's going to send him right into the wall and right into the pits.
And we have seen drivers in practice using those grip strips there, and it kind of messes them up. Here's another look here further a little bit later on with Michael Ost. He had an issue here following behind Jacob Abrams. So take a watch here as he goes into turn 1.
He's got a little bit of a different line behind Abrams. Abrams goes down almost into that wall. He's going to get up by Abrams, and Abrams is going to lose 2 positions there, it looks like.
Keep on watching. That Peels car just gets into the grass, and there's no saving it once you get those right side tires in that grass. Good job, though, keeping it off of the tire barrier. No damage, but definitely quite a disadvantage now, having to come back through the field. Ost now 7th in GT4.
And we're going to jump back up to the front here as Paul Newton right up the tail of Paul Boccioni here, really trying to get anything he can through these corners. Thinks about maybe going down the inside there through Clayton. Not going to have it. Boccioni is going to close down the inside. There's only about a car length in between them here as they line up for the run downhill and up into Moss.
Boccioni in the green, a former winner so far this year. Paul Newton right now hunting for P2. Issues for Matt Hollander, who was 5th in RSR. He is now moved into the pits. May have had to, no, not taking a tow. Looks like a voluntary pit stop. Issues here for your 5th place runner overall.
As we jump back here on replay, gets a little bit squiggly there. I think he may have already had some damage. Yeah, there it is on your screen. Looks like as he comes down through that second corner, that's Clayton trying to work it into Quebec here. He's going to get down. Oh, and gets tagged by a GT4 car, and that's going to send him into the barriers.
Absolutely nothing he could do there and had to pit for damage. Back up front here in your GT4s, Boccioni still leading, but now BJ Fulton has reeled in Newton for 2nd, and Abrams is close behind after his slight error a little bit earlier.
As we jump up here to P3 in the GTE cars, that's going to be Jim Slavic and Connor Bloom trying to work their way, trying to have some fun here. That's Bloom diving this way and that pig trying to find something, anything by him. They're going to be coming up here on a little bit of lap traffic. Ooh, big late dive down through turn 1. That's a gutsy move by both GTE drivers.
Bloom, the 28-year-old out of San Diego, California, part-time instructor in driving, a part-time instructor for many different groups, and then also a part-time stunt driver. Trying to put that to use right here, almost tags Oviatt. Slavic goes around the outside and into the grass.
Oh, I couldn't see exactly what happened there to Slavic, but amazing car control from Bloom to keep it from going into the back of Oviatt. Really and truly here tonight, Devin, it is just a war of attrition as we watch on replay what happened.
It seems like it's that way every single race. Here comes Slavic and Bloom on the replay, catching up to the slower GT4. Slavic lets up a ton, decides to go to the left side, and boy, there's really nothing you can do there if you're Oviatt, but Slavic just gets a little bit too greedy on the gas on exit. He'll lose that position and plenty more room there to try to get back on course.
It's such a tricky corner to try to make a pass through there. That is Quebec, that's turn 3. As we come back here, as that is not an anomaly, that is your RSR leaders starting to work their way through the battle for P1 with Newton and Boccioni.
Newton has overtaken Boccioni for the lead now, so Paul Newton in the Peels Oranges machine out front here. BJ Fulton and Jacob Abrams not far behind. Corey Latvala, he's also trying to throw his name in a hat here in that Black Club Sport machine just behind them. That's your top 5 in GT4, just about all together right now.
Throw a blanket over the whole field there. These GT4 guys really putting on a battle, as in the GTE class, Teddy Framheim, who would work their way through him, has a whopping 14.9 seconds ahead of Michael Bolton. So this is clearly the best battle on track right now.
Paul Newton in the lead. He's been sim racing for a while. Started with IndyCar Racing 2 back in 1996. He stares at screens more than just in sim racing, though. Also a motion graphic artist with Nextstar Media Group. So the 34-year-old from Fresno, California, pretty diverse when it comes to doing anything on a computer screen, it seems like. Now looking for a win here at Motorsport. Boccignone in second, Fulton in third here in GT4. Abrams, your 7-time winner this season, still trying to fight back and return to the top step on the podium. And if you do want an update in GTE, Framheim now up to a 14-second advantage over second place Bolton. So not much going on. I think Framheim is the only driver in an RSR to not make any major errors thus far. Well, 10 minutes down, 20 still to go, though.
Knock on wood, and we've seen some of the absolute best of this Porsche Owners Club Series make some mistakes. So let's knock on all of the wood here for Teddy Framheim as we jump back into the GT4 field.
Battle here for 8th. Jad Duncan in the green Club Sport machine. Michael Robon trying to catch up behind him. Just in front of them is Alan Stad as well here. So these three drivers battling for the 7th position in GT4. And sometimes it is curious how these drivers get themselves in situations. I know 30 minutes is just a sprint race, but these drivers, sometimes they just like to stick on each other like glue for the full 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's a weird thing that happens in racing. Sometimes you see it over the course of a season as well. The two drivers can't just separate, as you see here, diving down to the inside, trying to get anything there from Duncan. I don't think that's going to work out for him. If I was him, I would have stayed in that draft a little bit longer. He's close enough to get maximum effect. He's going to try to push Stad a little bit there, coming through the S's. That's a really gutsy move from both of them, and he's going to fall back there. Discretion, the better part of valor for Jad Duncan.
Yeah, it got a little bit tight here, and now an RSR might be sneaking his way into this battle. Trying to look to the inside, looking everywhere that he can to try to take over that position. But now here comes an RSR that could shake up this battle.
Oh, look at it, Duncan's car. He just looks like through the corners, he is able to put that absolutely wherever he wants. Is there that RSR flying on through? Not going to cause a problem to any of them. But Duncan having the advantage through the corners, it looks like, just able to really maneuver that car, whereas Stad may just have a little bit more top speed to be able to eke out of that GT4.
Duncan, the 981 machine here in Club Sport. Both these drivers in the top 10 overall. Speaking of top 10, Eric Oviatt has now moved into 10th in GT4, but he's still about 13 seconds behind this battle that we see here on your screen after that early mishap on lap number 1.
Yeah, he definitely didn't make his day any easier, but he's going to try to do what he can to get back up there. As we're going to jump back here, you can see him trying that line again as Duncan. He's going to go for the outside, do the same move he did. He's a little bit farther alongside. Nope, he's going to fall back, maybe just try to, ooh, as they get a little rubby there coming through the first part of the S's.
That was a little close. Michael Robon takes over P8 now and sets his sights on Alan Stad. Yeah, Duncan there, I mean, I think in the real world, someone or both of them would be missing a side mirror at this point. Some close quarter racing there. Also some close quarter racing up front in GT4. Jacob Abrams right on the rear bumper of Doug Boccignone. Some battling here in second, third, fourth, and fifth has allowed Paul Noon to extend to a 2-second advantage here in Club Sport.
Newton really taking advantage of that problem behind, but now we see as they dive off of Moss, seeing who can get the better run. Looks like everybody's relatively evenly spaced as they were coming back through the corner. There you see that's Abrams drifting a little bit to the left, not getting full advantage of the draft, but he's going to try to maybe force Boccignone offline just a little bit coming through the S's and maybe take advantage down the main straight.
And you can't take too many chances here if you're Abrams. Right behind you, about a half-second behind, is BJ Fulton. Vala is directly behind him as well. So these four drivers still not separating. And Abrams using that grip strip to its full advantage.
Very much so, but he's going to lose a little bit of ground there as they come off of Whites and dive down into the first corner. You can see there, that's BJ Fulton poking his nose up the inside. Both drivers almost nearly beaching themselves on that rumble strip as Fulton goes to the inside, and whoo, there comes all the way up through. That is Matt Hollander in the RSR.
Little bit of traffic, Hollander bobbing, Hollander weaving. Able to get around a few of them. Can't make the error that Slavic made here in the same corner. able to work his way around and now sets his sights on Boccione, and then the GT4 leader, Paul Newton, now in front of him. Halfway down, halfway to go, minute 15 here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. These drivers not giving an inch, just a 30-minute sprint. You see, though, through the hairpin, not quite as many drivers after the first couple of laps getting tripped up, but as these tires wear off, that can change the story. Looking back here at Eric Oviatt, in the 10th position, been trying to work his way up, and has seemed to have found Michael Robon, who had looks like he had an issue after that battle with Duncan. And now looking for 9th and GT4 is Oviatt.
And he's going to make that dive down through turn 4, and looks like he's got it leading up to Moss. That is not typically an overtaking area. Oh, and he goes wide, and clips into the car in front of him. Oh, Oviatt's day goes from bad to worse there.
Just a car sitting in the middle of the track, couldn't do anything about it. Trying to figure out who that Black Club Sport GT4 machine was, just sitting there, probably after his own troubles trying to get into the hairpin, but Oviatt just has seemed to find every bit of bad luck on this track. Let's ride on board here on the replay machine.
And you can see this really great move from Oviatt, just using the camber of that corner to his advantage. He's going to come up here into Moss, get down onto that, go a little bit wide. You know, Devin, I think that may be just a little bit of incident fixation there, seeing that car spinning out in front of him, focusing on that and not focusing enough on his braking zone.
That was David Kedor. He was a couple laps down. And that incident there has caused Oviatt to lose that position, along with 15 seconds to the 9th place runner, Michael Robon. So Oviatt with more issues today. There's the replay there. Just lost it trying to get into the hairpin, and Oviatt nowhere to go.
No, and you mentioned it earlier, Devin, this is such a narrow track that if somebody does make a little bobble like that, spins out, common courtesy is to just stamp on the brakes and hold position, but oftentimes there is no way to get around him even if that does happen.
So Paul Newton's lead has dwindled a bit. Boccione is behind him after a lapped car, so that battle is perking up a little bit. And now looking a little bit further up, Michael Bolton, he had an issue earlier on. He actually backed his RSR into a corner a little bit earlier, and now Connor Bloom with an opportunity to gain up. Here's a replay here on Bloom going into the hairpin, and another driver. I mean, I guess I just need to shut my mouth, because the second I say that drivers are getting a little bit more comfortable with the hairpin, we see a few guys starting to take some excursions off track.
And that gave Michael Bolton P2 there. So Bolton moved him up a space, moved Connor Bloom down to 1, but they are still fiercely battling it here as Bolton trying to get away from Bloom, but Bloom very, very angry, wanting to get that second place back from him.
And that's the curious part of this battle. Bolton was in second for a while. He had an error off camera where he backed into a corner, lost it. Bloom had an error, he lost it. Now they're back together here with GT4 tracking in front of them, and that has let Teddy Framheim extend to a 20-second lead here at Mosport.
It's just an absolute class from Teddy Framheim. But Devin, I have to tell you, I am very happy that Mike was off there, because that move by Bolton and Bloom coming around that lap traffic through Moss Corner definitely I let out a scream out of my body that I am not proud of. As you now see here, Bloom trying to work his way around through the S's. He's going to try to go a little bit wider, get a better line into turn 9. Not going to happen. Going to tuck back in line. He's going to have to try another day.
And I sense that other day will come fairly soon as they come past the finish line once again. 11 minutes remaining here in this 30-minute sprint at Mosport. Bloom using that rumble strip to his furthest advantage possible. And these RSRs, when they're bobbing and weaving down any sort of straightaway, it almost looks like they're bouncing back and forth. You wouldn't understand the kind of suspension that goes in these things, the way that those bottom of the cars seem to nearly bottom out whenever they're moving left and right across the track.
They are one of the modern wonders of the mechanical world, I have to tell you. But, you know, you think that they just absolutely skid across the tires and destroy the under trace. As Bloom thinks about going down the inside of Moss, thinks better of it. Going to line back down on to the Andretti straightaway, see what he can do there. But, yeah, that's just how they handle over curbs, both in the sim and in real life.
So Framheim, his lead has been cut to just 17 seconds now. Behind him is this battle of Bolton and Bloom. Michael Bolton, the 28-year-old, graduated from Bondurant Racing School in Chandler, Arizona, certified for racing, and also races the boxer spec in POC. Also a director of photography for commercials and music videos. We talked about that a little bit last race, and Bolton has been a star in 4 Drink Fridays recently as well. Bloom now making the move into turn number 1. Textbook pass through the inside, and Connor Bloom retakes position number 2.
Really good move there from Bloom, just able to use that lap traffic to his advantage, make Bolton get off the gas a little bit. It stalled him coming off of turn 10, that's White's corner, got him the run down into 1 and pulled it off beautifully, as now he's got to work his way around a little bit more lap traffic and try to pull out that advantage once again over Michael Bolton.
That was Michael Ost now catching up to Doug Boccignone, who is 4th in GT4. The battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th has drastically moved away, and Boccignone slides off course. Now this battle here is again for 4th place now. Slavik and Hollander here. Slavik, we saw his issues. Hollander's had a bit of his own, but now the RSR is duking it out for the 4th position.
And you're going to see there Hollander trying to find something, thought about going up the inside of Moss. Not going to happen. He's just going to tuck it back into line here. Once again, it'll be interesting to see if he has the same thought process as Connor Bloom, to see if he can make a run down onto that pit straight as well.
This is happening just 26 seconds behind Connor Bloom and Michael Bolton right now. They continue to bob and weave through the GT4 traffic, and you see Hollander every now and again just kind of peeking out, seeing what does the track look like in front of me, where can I make this next move.
And there you see Hollander just taking a different line through the S's. It's going to give him so much momentum onto the pit straight, but Jim Slavik able to absolutely perfectly position that car in White's corner to force Hollander to back off a little bit, depriving that line into 1.
Slavik holds on to that 4th position for how much longer, who knows, as he nearly has a close encounter with the dirt in the grass. That opens the door on the left side, but can't take advantage of it. Hollander stuck high and dry, and Slavik still retains the position. Hollander now trying to cut back the other direction and cross him over. Again, just not quite enough momentum.
Not quite enough momentum. He's going to have to make that pass somewhere that Slavik isn't going to be expecting it. So all the impetus here on Matt Hollander. Slavik, one of the few drivers to really not have too many mistakes this race, just driving clean and steady throughout it.
Framheim still leading overall. His lead back up to 20 seconds over Connor Bloom and Michael Bolton. Newton still leading Jacob Abrams by 2.5 seconds for GT4. We continue to watch this battle here for 4th. Jim Slavik leading Matt Hollander for the 4th and 5th positions. And still, we haven't seen it become a major issue, but the more spread out these cars get, sometimes the worse the lap traffic maneuvering ends up becoming. Hollander right at the rear bumper of Slavik here, going past the start-finish line and back into turn 1. Still just cannot find that place. You see him enter the corners wider, trying to get momentum on exit. Bobbing and weaving, just can't find a way around Jim Slavik. Gets on the right side, but again, high and dry. Gets momentum though. Hollander gets a little bit of room and moved the 4.77 into the 4th position finally.
Oh, that was just pretty from Matt Hollander. Really, really good move there to get around Slavik. Used a little bit of lap traffic again to get Slavik on the defensive and just able to put the pressure down when he needed, as he now gets through Whites, and he's already pulling out about a 0.8 of a second on Slavik as we jump back up to that 1st place battle for GT4 with Paul Newton still leading the way.
Newton up in front. He continues to lead this race. You see Jacob Abrams in the red and white machine dug into the lead a little bit here. About a 2-second gap is the differential. You look at the lap times here. You see the past couple of laps, Jacob Abrams trying to make an advance here, coming down to only about 5.5 minutes remaining here at Mosport.
It's really going to be do or die times here for Abrams, as he's just got to get going. I don't know if he's got anything left, but you know, Devin, as we talked about earlier on, his setup may favor him later in the race. He's certainly been able to move up as this race has gone along.
Paul Newton up in front of GT4. He has the 4th most points combined of the 2 different car classes. He is 2nd in points when it comes to GT4, but it has just been consistency. Average start of 3rd, average finish of 4th, but has yet to get the top step of the podium. Just about 5 more minutes, and Paul Newton can finally find his way to virtual victory lane in the Porsche Owners Club.
Well, he's just going to have to keep doing what he's doing, keeping the advantage over Jacob Abrams. Abrams going to be very hungry to do anything, as we're going to jump back up here to your GTE leader. That is Teddy Framheim, working his way through the Moss hairpin. Framheim now pulling out to a whopping 19 seconds over Connor Bloom behind him.
Framheim just putting on another virtual clinic. 20-second lead over Bloom. Bolton has fallen off the pace by about 3 seconds from Bloom. And then behind them, you got to go back about 30 seconds, nearly half a lap, to find Hollander and Slavic, who are now making their way through GT4 traffic. Looks like Michael Johnson more issues for him as he hits pit road, the last RSR on the track, as he heads on down, potentially for some damage repair. It has been a tricky race for many drivers in both classes tonight.
Yeah, the old school nature of this track really just catching people out. You know, you talk a lot about some of these new tracks that get designed. COTA, where these guys are going to finish out the year, being a prime example of where those runoff areas you can catch the car. Mosport is not one of those tracks. If you get a tire wrong, you will suffer deadly consequences, and we have seen it here tonight.
Jacob Abrams trying to continue his advance towards Paul Newton. The gap remains just under 2 seconds, running out of time as the clock dwindles down to nearly 3 minutes remaining here at Mosport. And sometimes this is where open setups are the most critical. How far can you push your car in the late stages of a race? You can see that car in front of you, but do you have enough left over to reel him in?
Well, we'll have to see here. Abrams working it down to about 1.75 seconds right now. Coming down through turn 1. I'm watching on board with Abrams just on my own monitors, and he's really just trying to find any advantage out of this corner, out of any corner that he can, just trying to find something, anything to get him up ahead of Newton.
Lap traffic, his own class, helping out Abrams a lot. Newton stuck on the outside in this corner. Abrams is tearing into the lead right now, and just like that, there goes the flashing lights. Hey, buddy, I can see you. I see you now.
And here comes Jacob Abrams, ready for the fight. Gets a little bit too much of that corner there, but he is still going to be right up the tail end of Paul Newton. With 2 minutes to go, this race is anywhere but done.
The deficit more so than cut in half. Under a 1 second advantage for Paul Newton. Abrams got a ton of help from lap traffic, and now trying to find win number 8 on the season. That would guarantee him at least half the races this season in GT4, being a Jacob Abrams victory. Still has a little bit of work to do, but slowly reeling in Paul Newton.
He's slowly reeling him in as he's just working his way through there, trying to find speed wherever he can. Gets a little bit too much of that curb there through White's corner. 2 to go here at the line. They're going to dive into 1. That's Jeffrey Schulem ahead of Newton. Newton going to want to dispatch him as fast as possible and not run into the same problems as he did last time.
And you can see Teddy Framheim now, the 2 leaders of both classes coming up close. This time, lap traffic a little bit more helpful for Paul Newton. And here comes Teddy Framheim. Gets around Abrams. Now right on the rear bumper coming up. Will take the right side advantage there. Looks like neither car having to worry about too much there from that pass. The deficit now for Abrams has exceeded over a second. So Newton able to get a little bit more space. Come to the white flag this time as they once again roll through the hairpin.
They worked their way down, and I think the way that that just all shook out is that, frankly, if anything, Paul Newton forced a little bit wide on those corners. He was able to take a little bit more momentum through him, and so that definitely helped him. As we see here, Teddy Framheim working his way down the Andretti straightaway and into the S's to take the white flag.
Framheim, his lead has been cut down to about 17 seconds. it has just been consistency for Teddy Framheim. That's what has earned him his wins this year. That livery, boy, it looks good on Teddy Framheim. Some days better than others, and today, well, it's a good day for Framheim, it looks like so far. One more lap to go for the 106.
He's just going to keep doing what he's doing and hope he doesn't encounter too much of lap traffic, but he's been able to dispatch all of it as he works his way there through Quebec corner, swing it out wide. He's going to make the dive down here through turn 4 and one last time through the Moss hairpin.
Framheim, your points leader, continues to tack onto that points lead here in race number 13 of the season. Coming down to the wire, a 16-race stretch here in Season 2. Season 1 was just a 4-race sprint where anything and everything happened. Here in Season 2, you needed a lot to try to make sure that you were in contention for that championship. And Framheim, he has done nearly everything possible to have this points lead. Well, he is your points leader and now looking for win number 7 on the season. At Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Teddy Framheim picks up win number 7 in the Porsche Owners Club.
And jumping back here, that is Paul Newton with Jacob Abrams right behind him. Abrams was able to close down a little bit on that last lap, but I don't think it's going to be enough, as indeed Paul Newton crosses the start-finish line to take his first victory of the year, and that is Abrams spinning at the line. I think he crossed it to get it, but definitely a little dramatic flair there from Abrams.
Reminiscent of Kyle Busch versus Kevin Harvick. Sunday night in NASCAR, spinning across the line. More GT4s coming to the line. This year, a little bit further back in the pack. Jad Duncan trying to catch up to Michael Roban. Duncan right now in 8th, Roban in 7th.
As they work their way through here, it looks like they're going to stay nice and easy, although that's Roban running a little bit wide, or Duncan rather, running a little bit wide there through those corners, trying to see if he can get anything. Nothing happened, and they're just going to cross and come across the line there as is.
Well, Teddy Framheim, your victor, win number 7 on the season. And then Paul Newton, your winner in GT4, his first win in the Porsche Owners Club. We will go through your finishing results and also talk to your podium finishers in both classes. Don't step away here on GSRC at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Another incredible showing from Teddy Framheim to win another one here in the Porsche Owners Club and the first global Porsche Owners Club race in their Sim Racing League. Framheim with a 22nd victory over Connor Bloom. Michael Bolton rounding out the podium in RS Hollander ends up in 4th. Jim Slavic rounds out your top 5. And your GT4 winner, Paul Newton, his first of the year, gives him a 6th overall finish. Abrams will finish 7th overall. Bolton rounds out your podium in GT4. Doug Boccignone and Corey Lavala ends up in the top 10.
Alan Stade able to bring the car home in 11th, followed by Michael Roban and Jad Duncan. Eric Oviatt able to claw his way back up from those early incidents to bring the car home in 14th overall. Jeffrey Shulam and Alan Fulton 15th and 16th, Mark Rondeau. In 17th, Michael Johnson, suffering that damage that we saw him dive into the pits late in the race. In 18th, David Keeter in 19th, followed by Michael Ost in 20th place.
And your final drivers, John Momeyer, 21st, Jim Walsh, 22nd, Ron Palmer in 23rd, and Jerry Freckleton rounds out your 24-car field here at Mosport. And we are joined by your victor today, Teddy Framheim, the only driver, particularly in RSR, to just not make a major mistake here tonight. Teddy, what was the key to consistency at a track that just has a little tricky corner here and there that tries to throw you off, and you were just not thrown off tonight?
As ever, a lot of practice. And I was pretty conservative with my approach too. I figured I'm in the lead. There's no point taking any chances. And there are a few places where I could conceivably throw the car into a corner, grab the apex, let's say. But if the car in front of me does something unpredictable, then, I'm losing 10, 20 seconds or the race in the worst case. So I had the luxury being in front of being able to be a bit more conservative throughout the race.
And this is a very narrow track, especially any part of the racing line is extremely narrow, but lap traffic didn't really seem to be a factor tonight. Why do you think that the lap traffic, sometimes they can change the complexity of a battle, but it looked like, at least for you and for most of the field, lap traffic, it didn't seem that major, especially for the closure rate here in the RSRs?
I think actually in a lot of cases, the closure rate helps. Like a lot of the straights between corners are just long enough to get around 1 or 2 7/18s. And there are a few places like Moss Corner, for example, where you just, never to attempt it because bad things will happen. So in that sense, I guess you could say it's almost like it's straightforward. Like there are some places where you can take a bit of a risk. There are some places where the straight is just long enough, and some places where I wouldn't touch it.
Taking the win here tonight at Mosport and extending your points lead. Who do you have to thank for another top of the podium finish, win number 7 on the season?
Thank you, as always, to Matt Hollander and the POC. Thank you to GSRC again, of course, for putting on these broadcasts. I mean, I watch every single one of them after the race, and you guys do a great job. And thank you to my family and my wife for continuing to support me.
Teddy Framheim, that championship race looming closer, and Framheim continues to extend his lead. Well, let's go ahead for the first time ever. Paul Newton in the booth as the winner with DJ Clark.
Paul, that was an absolutely epic drive. Lots of pressure there at the end from Jacob Abrams. Talk us through your first win in the series.
Yeah, I went a little bit more aggressive than I've been going. I've been trying to be conservative just to keep it in the race. And this time I feel like my position in points is pretty safe. So I really tried to go for it. I took a more aggressive approach to setting it up today and driving it too. When I took the lead there from Douglas Baccione, I found the opening and I went for it. So that was my motto today.
Well, I will tell you from a spectator's point of view, it was a fantastic drive to watch. It looked like at the end there, you caught some lap traffic that nearly put you into the clutches of Abrams. We thought it might all fall apart. What was going through your head on those last couple of laps?
Well, I was watching my mirrors as much as I was looking out the front. So, yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard for the lap cars to even get out of the way at this track. We're just on the edge all the time. So you got to run it right to the edge, even if you're not even quite on the pace.
Well, as I said before, it was a great thing to watch, and we are so incredibly happy for you, Paul. Before we let you go, anybody you need to thank tonight?
Yeah, I want to thank Philip Parnagian for putting me up to this, and I want to thank Peel's California Mandarins for sponsoring me. I want to thank Tyler King. He's my crew chief. He helps me out with these setups, and we both wanted to go more aggressive on it, and we wanted to make sure I got a win before the end of the season, so I want to thank him. And I want to thank the GSRC for broadcasting these, and I want to thank the Porsche Owners Club for putting them on.
Well, thank you again, Paul, and congratulations once again on your first win. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Devin, who has our second place finisher in that GT4 division, Jacob Abrams.
How's it going, guys?
It looks like we got Michael Bolton instead here. He just likes to poke into the booth every now and again. Your third place finisher here, Michael Bolton. boy, I tell you what, it looked like a lot of you RSRs had the occasional trouble, a little bit here, a little bit there. Just how dangerous was this race today here at Mosport?
Devin, this was quite a tough race. It was kind of more or less who can avoid the GT4s. The RSR field has kind of shrunk a little bit, and the GT4 field has gotten massive. So, such a technical track, and man, happy to bring home P3. I've been waiting to get on the podium this whole season, and last week I was able to get on the podium and following up again. So super stoked about that.
Yeah, back-to-back podiums, trying to finish out this season strong. What has been the key the past couple of weeks to having a little bit of success? You definitely did look fast out there. Well, when you're not mowing the lawn or anything, you've definitely looked very fast, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, the name of the game is to just keep it clean and keep it on the track. So when we switched over to the RSRs, I was just putting in a lot of time trying to get faster and faster. And now I feel like I understand the car a lot better than I did. So that's probably one of the reasons. But man, it's so fun up against Connor and Matt and the other Michael Johnson. And I was really looking forward to running up head-to-head with Matt. But he had the incident. And man, I think 3 or 4 times tonight I had to like hit the brakes, lock it up, get around a GT4 that was spinning in front of me. So that always kept me on my toes. But yeah, just super good race and happy to be here.
Yeah, certainly a race that I think held a lot of drivers' attentions going through the hairpin or through the S's. There might have been a car a little bit slower here or there that you guys need to pay attention to. But Michael, another podium finish. Who do you have to thank for stepping up on the podium again here tonight?
Thank you. I want to thank Matt Hollander for putting this all together, the POC, Speed Gallery, and my parents. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Well, Michael, great having you here in the booth post-race. Hopefully we can do that a couple more times before season ends. Michael Bolton finishing in 3rd in RSR.
Thanks, guys.
Now we'll send it back to the GT4 world. DJ Clark has caught up with Jacob Abrams.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's good, Jacob. That was a little bit of an action-packed race, to say the least. You just kind of had to pick your way through everything that was going on. A lot of lap traffic for the GT4s and be in lap traffic yourself for the GTEs. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I think it's mostly just focused on being patient. And, this track's pretty new to me, so I didn't have a whole lot of confidence in, where there was grip or there wasn't, where you could safely make passes and not. So a lot of it was just, taking it easy and driving at 90%. So I didn't make a mistake. Thankfully I only made one minor mistake and caught it. But there's some other people that weren't so lucky. So congrats to Paul for running pretty much a flawless race. It was well done.
Yeah, well, it looked like we thought there at the end you may have a chance to close. You were really starting to claw them in, some lap traffic helping you out a little bit. Talk us through what was going through your head on those last laps. Were you thinking about making a dive bomb, or was it really in sort of points conservation, knowing where you are in the championship?
Yeah, it was mostly championship focused. I knew making a bonehead move and spinning out and falling down to 10th or something wasn't going to do me a whole lot of good. So I was just going to sort of sit back and take it easy and make a move if a good one presented itself. And I was hoping maybe some lap traffic or RSR would, get in the way of Paul and slow him down and give me a chance. But they seemed to slow me down just as much as they slowed him down. There wasn't really too much to, gain delta-wise between that and catch up to him. So maybe a couple more laps, but I don't know.
Well, there you go, Jacob. Once again, congratulations. Before we let you go, anybody you need to thank tonight?
I want to thank Works Team Motorsport and, of course, everybody at the POC for putting this on, and you guys as well.
Well, thank you very much, Jacob. That is your 2nd place GT4 finisher, Jacob Abrams. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Devin, who I believe has BJ Fulton here in the booth.
Yeah, BJ Fulton brings it home on the podium. It wasn't without a lot of sweat dripping down the face, I'm pretty sure, because, wow, that right behind 1st and 2nd most of the race just seemed like all you guys were just clustered together for the majority of the race. What was the heart rate at for you, BJ, when you and Jacob and Doug and Corey are all there just battling it out for what felt like about at least half the race?
Yeah, it was crazy. My heart was pounding, that's for sure. I was quite nervous. I knew I had to just maintain precision and stay in that line. And, I just started watching people peel off in front of me, spin out or something, and moving my position up.
Yeah, it seemed like there were a few cars that ended up peeling off every now and again. What was the most difficult part for you here at Mosport tonight, BJ?
Definitely the Moss corner. I think that's turn 6 here. I can't remember the number, but man, I hate that corner. it's probably the hardest corner on iRacing that I've done so far.
Yeah, it's not very fun, and of course, traffic comes to play sometimes over there. But how did traffic treat you tonight, both in the RSRs coming forward and then the GT4s, you trying to pass them?
Yeah, I went a little bit back and forth. I think a lot of the finishing positions in the top 5 were dictated by kind of traffic and just unlucky situations where traffic caught you in the wrong spot. There's nothing that you can really do. So there was definitely some swapping around of positions in the top 5 that was dictated by traffic.
Well, BJ, nonetheless, you stayed alive. You got on the podium. Who do you have to thank for finishing 3rd here tonight at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for putting on such an excellent broadcast. Matt Hollander for letting us race and organizing all this stuff, and all of our sponsors, Octavia, Century Financial, Sunset Mortgage. It's a really fun time, and I thank everybody for putting the show on.
Well, it was a fun show to watch. BJ, congrats on your 3rd place finish, and we will see you here in a couple more weeks.
Thanks. See you guys.
Well, DJ, another fun one here in the Porsche Owners Club, but as the season dwindles on down, what excited you the most here tonight at Mosport?
You know, I really just have to say it is the sheer talent of these guys to be able to be rubbing doors with each other, almost putting NASCAR moves on each other, while racing these GT4s and GTEs. It's just incredibly fun to watch. And the camaraderie and the respect these guys have for each other outside of the car, you hear it in those interviews. This is really a special series to be able to watch and be a part of.
Another fun race, and we still have a few more rounds before this series closes on up. And of course, we have to give a thank you to those sponsors who help on out for this series, and that includes Sunset Mortgage, Octavio Tequila, and Century Financial Consultants. And of course, a big thank you to the organizer, the Porsche Owners Club, and this summer and moving into the winter, taking their cars on the physical track to the virtual world here on iRacing. And if you're interested in advertising with GSRC, you will love our channel's 1 million monthly global impressions. They are a great way to get your branding seen by a diverse audience. Follow the link in the description below on YouTube or visit globalsimracingchannel.com/advertising to learn more. And thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed right here on your screen. And an additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for more of how to get a hold of her great work. And of course, a big thanks to the team today, DJ Clark, producer Joe Peak, and also Dougie Beard. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, on Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. And if you would like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. The link is in the description below. And don't forget, go to YouTube and hit that big red subscribe button so you never miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. The next race for the Porsche Owners Club Sim Racing League is coming up on November 16th, every other Monday. They're heading to Charlotte, and they are going to hit the Charlotte Roval. That one is going to be a little bit wild. We also have plenty more upcoming races for other series listed here on your screen, so if you think you might like those, just check them on your calendar, mark them down, go see them on demand on our YouTube page, whatever, just enjoy the racing. And along with that, until we see you next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.